Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Cat person.
Do you have a cat?
I don't have a cat, but any cat on the street is my cat.
I actually talked to some of your students before talking to you today, just
Okay.
to get more of a taste. They told me that the impression that you give is a villain. What's your thought on that?
Why? What or what kind of?
I think it's
did he
just-
say it?
It's not him,
Okay, no, yeah.
but I can't reveal the names.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Oh.
I will say I agree somewhat. So like I teach the year one and I think previously the year two as well. I think the role for me is that to expand a student's way of looking at things and also skill-wise as well, or like at least for year one is maybe not so much your technical skills, but maybe more of your how you conceptualize things, how you see things. So if they think I'm a bad guy, then it means it works maybe. But it's also, I think, it's nice if a student look back and from the start of, let's say, a studio and where they are now, I think if they feel that they have grown or their perception have grown or their way of working have grown, then I don't mind being called a bad guy.
So then, if you're actually a villain, who would you be?
Do you know Old Boy, the Korean film? So it's about this guy that was kidnapped, and then like he's locked in a room for for a lot of years, for quite a long time. So he escaped, and then he goes on a revenge spree that kills everyone. So yeah, if I'm a villain, I want to be the old boy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Here, I learned that you went to Netherlands to study design, and it's actually quite a unique design program.
Yep.
What was that experience like? Like, how do you think that shaped you as a person?
Yeah, I think so. So like I make a lot of friends. So that school is, although it's a design school, but then there's a lot of departments and I think the structure of the school is that you are introduced to every aspect or every discipline of design, and then you kind of figure out in your higher years where you want to specialize in. So we have to do weaving, textile work and so on in our foundation years. So I think that kind of make me interested in a lot of aspects of design in general. And I think that is quite a nice way to be introduced to such a creative field. Yeah. So the school is structured in the old Bauhaus syllabus. So where you have, like that famous Bauhaus circle, where you have your foundation of materials, and then you have all the, let's say, adjacent disciplines, such as theater, writing, philosophy, and so on. And I think the influence is that when I went there, I feel more free to explore. Because in Singapore, I studied industrial design, which is great, of course. But then because of the structure of the school, it opens my perspective to different ways of designing or different disciplines of design. And then how we can relate to each other or it's a very big field that is interconnected. So that I think is really nice.
How about life outside of school?
I don't have life outside of school.
like partying. Like,
yes,
you're
yes,
in
of
an
course.
art and design school.
Of course. Yeah. We party a lot, like all the house parties and so on, of course. And I think the nice part of the school is that it's situated in the old Philips town. So where all the Philips factory, Philips the company, like the CD-ROMs, the vacuum cleaners and so on. So it used to be a town, or the surrounding area, there's a lot of Philips factory, the design or the main design studio is there as well. So like you get a lot of these old factories because the manufacturing part go out to China or to Eastern Europe and so on. So there's a lot of empty factories, and it's easy to rent very cheaply, very, very large spaces. So I think that is also interesting because then as a student, you suddenly have a large space for like €100 per month or something like that, right? And you split it up with friends, then you pay like €30 per month. So like a lot of, I think we are able to make a lot of things and a lot of large things and to be able to experiment is also because of the availability of this space.
Wow.
So for me also, like like even in Singapore, I think it's nice to see where you can work because especially for students, I think to explore, it will be an advantage if you have the space to explore. So like even if you don't, let's say, have a space at home, at least find a space, maybe take over the workshop and so on. So like it's not just within the confines of your room or the confines of the studio table to kind of work out things.
Definitely.
So
After graduation, from my understanding, you stayed in Amsterdam to work for a bit, and then you came back to Singapore.
Yep.
Can you speak more on that? Like, why did you come back, and what made the transition between?
I came back for practical reasons, or maybe let's call it the diplomatic reasons. My visa cannot be extended. so you can do a yearly extension and everything. At some point, I just got fed up with it, and I thought, like, let's just come back to Singapore and see what I can do. Because I think at that time also I was thinking maybe Southeast Asia is more exciting than Europe. Europe is nice. You get the like the design quality is good. How they make things is good. Like we are always looking at the highest quality. But then again, I think for me, like there's always a sense that you're an outsider. And then at that point, I was working within an architecture studio and maybe design of more public spaces and so on. And like you go through the motion of designing a nice project, but like it's a nice project and so on. It gets built, like it looks good and everything. The spaces are really nice, but then I don't feel like I care too much about it, like because it's not a local. I still feel like a foreigner. So I thought, okay, let's go back to Singapore or Southeast Asia in general, and then see if I can find a place here.
You run a publication called Street Report.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about that and how did it all started?
Street Report, it started with a few friends. So there's me, there's Kathy Hang, which is a landscape architect. There's Atelier Hoko, which is a design studio, but quite open in how they approach design. And then there's Gideon and Jamie, which runs a graphic and book design office, as well as they run a publication house, or like a very small publication house called Temporary Press. So they do a lot of nice books, which everyone should have a look at. Anyway, So they are all friends. So we started it because we found, let's say, we found a similarity in how we look at public spaces. You know, like like we are all doing design of some sort, but we like to observe things on the street. We like to like look at what normal people or non-designers are changing how we interact with spaces. You know, like the little shelters the uncles create next to a coffee shop, or or like things you put outside your house for your plants and so on. So that's one part of it. The other part also is that we are interested in this tradition of street observatory. So like it started. So there's kind of, at least in Japan, it's there's this kind of a historical line of this street observation. So it started with Wajiro-kon when Japan was starting to modernize. So he started to create this scientific way of observing how life changes, how people's clothes change from from a traditional clothes to more like a Western wear and so on. And then after that, I think in the 70s or 80s, there's this group called Street Observation Society by, I forgot who, I think, yeah, and then there's also a subset called the Window Research Society, which just look at windows and the typology of windows. And then in the 2010 and so on, there's this behaviorology by Atelier Bawao, where they say that form always follows function, and they kind of try to figure out what kind of weird architecture or public spaces that happens when form totally follows function. So then we are really interested in this tradition, and this publication of Street Report is to follow that line or follow that group of designers that look at the street a bit more freely. So the book itself, or the publication itself, is that we ask one reporter, we call them the reporter, which is the author of the book, and they will give us a street report of one particular thing or one particular street that they are fascinated with, and then we will publish them.
What's something you learned from doing design for 10 plus years?
I think design is maybe, or the creative part is 10% of the work. The other 90% is, just having the stamina to execute it.
Is there a designer that you really respect? That embodies
I have a lot.
philosophy?
I like those designers that they became famous only when they are old. So, because then you see this kind of a body of work when they are not famous yet, right? You kind of, and then maybe 40 years later, they, like one of the projects gets a lot of press, but you still see the quality even when there's no one looking at it.
Is that what you're trying to achieve?
Not really. I want to be as famous or rich as possible, but you see the stamina. So I really like designers that show the stamina, that and also the concentration and the discipline to work no matter what the outcome or what the incentives, like either fame or money and so on. So the daily grind, I think, is very important. And that's why I'm a bad guy for students.
So to wrap this up, as a tradition of our podcast, do you have a question for the next interviewee I'm going to be interviewing? I don't know who is going to be.
Okay. My question is, how do they see themselves in the next 10 or in 10 years from now? Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Faiz,
Thank you.
for the interview.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Insert the